Good morning. Good morning. I was going to come up here and try to moonwalk across the stage in the spirit of Thriller, but I was afraid I'd be tumbling right into Zach here because it's been probably about 30 years since I last tried doing the moon dance, moonwalk, when I was 10 years old. I had my members only jacket, sleeves rolled up, the fingerless gloves, trying to learn how to break dance in my driveway. So I think I was the, yeah, like you'll be trying to shake that from your head throughout the rest of the talk here. But really excited to have this esteemed panel up here with me today. The question that we're going to be discussing, that the theme really is, what will it take for the credit unions globally to reach 1 billion members? Is it the mission of credit unions we've been talking about? Is it the vision of the leaders, not only in this room, but across the country and across the globe? Will it be technology? That's a common theme we've heard mentioned over and over again this morning. That will be the catalyst to help us reach 1 billion members. Or is it something else? Is there some other secret sauce that really is going to be critical to enabling us to achieve that very lofty and very ambitious goal? As a moderator, I get to have the benefit of going first. So I get to, I think the answer in my eyes really is going to be all three. One, we have the mission. I think the common theme we've heard here is, hey, this mission should be resonating with almost everybody. Yet we're having a hard time reaching younger people, reaching people my age with sharing that mission. What can we do differently? What do we need to do differently to get the word out there? Are there lessons to be learned from credit unions in other parts of the world that we could try to bring into the U.S.? I think when we look at vision, it's so hard because there's so much going on for almost anybody to think about what do we need to do over the next 3 years, over the next 5 years, over the next decade to really, adapt as an industry to not only really kind of sustain where we're at, but to achieve that goal. In 10 years, that's a mile away, but it goes by in a flash. I mean, I've been running our venture fund at TruStage now. We're in our 9th year. It feels like, just yesterday we were having this same conversation. So I don't think it's ever too late to start thinking about what do we need to do now to be relevant 10 years from now. I think the concept of collaboration is, the something else. And I think, again, it feels like a lot of common themes, but I think we really need to reimagine what collaboration and cooperation means. And we need actionable collaboration. I'm really excited to hear more about Kus this afternoon because I do think this is really probably one of the most important components for achieving 1 billion members globally. Because without Kus and without actionable collaboration, we run the risk of actually going in reverse. We're at, I think, 140 million credit union members in the U.S., I think close to 400 million globally. But I think we really need to reinvent ourselves as an industry, or we potentially will be going in decline. We have an aging membership, as we all know, and we're having a hard time, really attracting younger generations. There's more competition now than there ever has been. I think that comes to the fourth category, which is technology. I think that's going to be the biggest catalyst for us as an industry to achieve that billion-member growth. I think it also presents perhaps the biggest obstacle to us achieving 1 billion members, and also to staying relevant. You have banks now that are spending, a single bank, JP Morgan Chase, has a technology budget that's almost double the size of the entire credit union industry combined. How are we going to compete then as an industry when one bank alone has again, twice the budget. There's over 10,000 fintech companies now operating in the United States. So, that's a whole new entrant of competition that didn't really exist 10 or 15 years ago. But, the good news is there are so many fintech companies out there that really will provide the tools, the technology for credit unions to reinvent themselves. I think we talk about small credit unions. I think, Tom may have mentioned, 100 million and below are having real challenge here. I think if you look ahead 5 or 10 years ago, or 5 or 10 years ahead, what's considered a small credit union probably is going to be 500 million or $1 billion. And so what do we need to do differently to ensure small credit unions can really survive and adapt in a world where financial services is being driven more and more by technology? And again, I think what it is we need to collaborate, meaning we need to find a way to reach agreement on things. I've been on a number of different groups over the last decade of, hey, what do we need to do differently? And it will meet for 18 or 24 months. And I feel like, maybe we agree on what a mission statement is over that 18 or 24 month period. And then the group kind of just fizzles. And so I think we need to probably empower individuals to really kind of lead this, to identify partners, I think technology partners that we can partner with, on a collaborative combined basis, that will provide that critical technology as we look ahead. I think more and more there are underbanked and unbanked consumers in the United States and globally. Credit unions are best suited of anybody to really serve the needs of those individuals. And technology now provides the tools for us not only to reach those individuals and serve them, but to do so in a responsible way that not only will help your credit union grow, but it creates a whole new source of financial security and financial independence for these individuals, to allow them to get microloans that can enable them to build credit so that they can become a member that grows with your credit union. And again, 10 or 15 years ago, that would have been very difficult to do, but the technology exists. I heard a lot around, artificial intelligence. That's another key driver of how do we kind of build, more efficiency into the system. There are some fintech companies out there that I know are very interested to partner with smaller credit unions. Savvy AI is an example of a company that came here today, I think, to really learn from credit unions of, hey, can we come together, really harness the data of small credit unions on an aggregated basis, so that small credit unions get some of the benefits and scale of what a large bank might have. But again, it's going to require cooperation. Is it going to be perfect? No. I think we have to also realize, we can't have 100 different opinions. Everyone needs to kind of probably give and take a little bit. There has to be compromise that we really pursue. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now, and I want to present this question, to the panelists here, and see what insights they have on what will be the biggest catalyst for achieving 1 billion member credit union growth. So with that, I'll turn things over to Lisa.
Thank you very much. And I'll start with one of the facts you brought up. According to the 2023 World Council of Credit Unions, we have a little over 411 million credit union members worldwide. So our quest for 1 billion will require us to more than double your membership today. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment and think about what that would mean for your organization, because that's what the underground is about, And that's what your members want, right? So that's the first question is, what is it going to take for you to double? Now, since that report was published, I'm really thrilled, pun intended, to share that I am actually a new member in our quest to $1 billion. I was a credit union member early in my career. It was the beginning of my financial journey. But as my career took off and I started living in every city, I think, in this country for a while, it didn't serve me well for a boutique Ohio-based credit union. So I ended up moving to one of the big 4 banks. Don't hate me, don't boo me.
Boo.
It is what I had to do at that point in my life for simplicity. And so, you know, we as a company have been working with credit unions in Brazil. Don't hate me for this comment, but Brazil is ahead of the US in banking. And every time I say that, and I recently did it on a podcast, I get the American not invented here response. So I want to start with look outside. And to get to our vision and mission, it needs to have vision, mission, and technology. Like you, Brian, I couldn't say there was one. It's got to be all. So I want to just go through those quickly. But after I talk about my experience of joining. So it was last month. I live in Seattle, and it's a local credit union. They allowed me, I thought I was going to have to go to the branch. I didn't. I was able to do it digitally. Awesome. That's how I do all my banking. The experience sucked. I still have no money in that account. What happened? The first thing when I start opening an account, I get a screen from some company, I still don't know who it is, on privacy. That tells me screen scraping's going on. This isn't the relationship I'm opening up. That's my first handshake with this credit union. The second handshake, I could not transfer money from my big 4. I was ready. I still have nothing in that account. It took 5 days to get the welcome member. Nobody's engaged me about how I can take off with this account. And now I have a debit card and an account with nothing. Now, are the 18-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, are they going to accept that? I'm 63. I don't accept it. So it really starts with the member journey and experience, right? For us to double. And yes, I will get money in that account because I now, after working internationally with credit unions and with Sue and the MSA team, I'm a believer in this movement too. But we have to do better. We have to kill sacred cows. And honestly, the time is now. And why is that? One, for a vision. Do you have a strategy of open? When I talk to executives at credit unions, they're like, oh, I'm scared of open banking and open finance. You dive into that. That fear is actually misplaced. Open is being interpreted as a heavy compliance burden. It's being interpreted as punishment. It's about member empowerment of data. And it's about a strategy to fix the innovation friction that you have, to open up fintechs, financial literacy. We're partnering with someone in the financial literacy space to bring that to credit unions. That draws in your youth. It'll draw in my 7-year-old grandchild. So vision has got to have open finance strategy. And we've worked with Sicredi in Brazil, Brazil's largest credit union, over 140 years old. In Brazil, they ran a very different compliance window than what we just heard from the CFPB, and we've been working with the CFPB. And Sicredi went to its membership and said, we think we should move early. They did. They moved ahead of their compliance because it was more than compliance. It was about the member experience. And out of that, they opened up millions of dollars in available credit because they had better data and information from their members. They now are offering over 300 financial products and services to their members across Brazil, because it's about their financial wellness and journey. What an 18-year-old wants from their financial wellness and journey, or somebody who needs financial inclusion, is very different than me. So you've got to have that breadth. So vision is important, and I give you a case study because it's possible in a co-op environment. It's even more possible than in a traditional bank. Secondly, it's about the mission, and that mission needs to be the experience, the journey, and opening up, right, that relationship with the member so that you're getting the experience to be your marketing and you're not pushing, let's tell our story. Have these new members tell their story. The last one is technology, and we're going to hear a lot about that this afternoon. Technology is not a panacea. It is a flywheel. And you can't have a flywheel if you're shackled to old shit. You just can't. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I think I've taken a little too much time. I'm sorry. You can tell I'm passionate about our movement now. Let's work together.
Wow.
Love the passion. Leisha, let's hear your roadmap to hitting 1 billion members.
So I'm going to take a completely different approach to this. As a person who focuses on people all the time, I'm going to say let's heal from the inside out. And so what does that mean? When we talk about the fact that we need to build membership, I've got a question for you. How many of your employees of your credit unions are members? Right? So I did a little survey before I came here, and I kind of threw that out to a little HR networking group that I belong to, and it was anywhere between 40 and 80%. So then I kind of thought about, okay, that's really great because you kind of need that for payroll deduction, let's be real. But then how many are really active members? And the number was way less than that. So when I think about building membership, we talk about, member service and all of that stuff. And it can't help but to think about if your own employees are not members, active members, then how are they helping you to build membership? And here's another thing that I kind of looked at. We look at the people that have been or that are employed, the employees who've been with the organization, I would say between 1 and 2 years. And one of the things that we found out from this little survey is that the majority of them, that's our greatest level of turnover, your employees that are there within 1 to 2 years. And so then you can dig in and kind of figure out, well, now why is that? Because the people that we are trying to attract, our future members, they're in that age group. And some of you might say, or at least I've heard this with some of the people that I've talked with, they're like, well, they're member-facing positions and, they just turn over. Yeah, but why? Because it wasn't always like that. And then you start thinking, and it's, how are we treating them? So we all talk about AI. Can't go anywhere without hearing about it. And here's what they say. AI is definitely going to change different positions, but it means that there is a shift in the skill set that our employees have. So we say, okay, you're going to have to be more innovative and you're going to have to be problem solvers. It's like, okay. And then we hire people and we say, oh my gosh, we interview, we have these great interview questions and we say, okay, you seem like you're a great innovator and you're a problem solver and you're all of these things, I want to hire you. And then what do? We bring them in and we say, we don't really want your new ideas. We want you to just do what we've always been doing. And the younger generations are kind of saying, well, this is kind of boring and not what I expected. And after 2 years of that crap, they're out the door. And the great thing, especially, so I'm in California, our credit union's in California. The thing of it is, we find that people are leaving. They can't afford to buy houses, so they're probably still in their parents' house. So they don't even have to have another job before they leave. And with 4% unemployment, they'll get the job when they're ready to get one. So we lose the talent. We don't have the membership. We're not finding out from the member's perspective. I think that there was a movie out there somewhere, something like Kevin Costner starred in it, and I think there was a line in it said something like, if you make me feel good about what I'm doing, they will come. Well, I don't know if I got that quite right or anything, but just the same. if we listen to our younger employees and find out, if you're not a member here, what does it take, and solve those problems, I think that we will be way ahead to try and find the overall solution. When you think about all of our credit unions, all of the employees, and they're our greatest group of, advertisement, if you will, if we just use them to solve the problem, I think that we'll be head and shoulders above where we want to be. And I'll stop there.
Jim, let's bring it home.
Yeah, well, great. I have to just level set a little bit with some experience, because some of this is, you get up here and you're like a little uncertain. 3 months on the World Council of Credit Union Board of Directors, that's not a lot of experience. 10 years visiting Africa and working with African credit unions, pretty intriguing, but I don't understand everything about Africa, right? How many people here are credit union development educators or understand the onion? Just show of hands. Yep. Amen. So that's really where the passion that I have for growing our membership, not only here in the United States, but around the world, stems from. What I've learned from at the international level in working with folks is we have a luxury here. It's called the deposit guarantee, because we're one of the G20 countries where 90% of those countries have a deposit guarantee scheme in place. Of the other non-G20 countries, that number drops to 20%. So how is it that you convey perception of stability, that your money's going to be safe, right? Particularly when there's so many challenges with refugees and immigrants that are coming into countries. Again, we're working on that here in the US at Peninsula Credit Union, but in Poland or in Korea, who have refugees and immigrants that are coming from other parts of Asia. So how is it that we make those people feel welcome in a financial cooperative space? Part of it, I think, looks at, are the regulatory environments, are the regulatory frameworks the same or similar? Acosta is doing an amazing job across the continent of Africa, working with at least 22 of their 29 member countries, pulling regulators together, right? Pulling them together to say, if we are on the same page, maybe we can present a perception of stability for those financial cooperatives. So that's where I kind of want to pivot and transition a little bit here to the US. How often and how many times do our regulators actually understand who it is that we're serving? Or instead, are we seeing more and more regulators or the heads of those regulatory agencies issuing ideas by tweet or LinkedIn posts about why credit unions need to have Community Reinvestment Act, or how one credit union who went rogue with redlining blankets the entire industry that we're all guilty of that? That's not accurate. That's not true, right? So how is it that we as a credit union industry are unifying our voice to help those regulators understand the people that we're serving? How is it that we're unifying our credit union voice across the industry to maybe make some proactive changes to the Federal Credit Union Act, which was passed initially when? Anyone? 1935, right? So 40 years for Thriller. That was a thriller back then, right? But it's long past gone. Would we actually be able to pull the industry together with the passion and the force, the numbers, as happened in 1998 with 1151? If we put out that call to action right now, how many would show up beyond just, of course, all of us in this room? Because we would be there. Sue would tell us to be there, right? So how is it that we make that change? Because there are a lot of things related to how do you charter new credit unions? What is it about our field of membership that could affect growing members, right? It's irritating to me. I kind of get fired up a little bit about this, right? If you can tell, it's irritating to me when I hear or see credit union CEOs posting on listservs, we're going to get rid of that second chance checking account because we've just determined it's not making us any money. That's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's irritating to me when I see merger posts that talk about, yes, the efficiencies and yes, to the benefits of the members, but leave out the fact that that could be for the benefit of more members joining financial cooperatives, because they're not thinking about the growth of our entire financial cooperative industry, they're thinking about what's in it for me, right? When we think of credit unions, there's so many opportunities individually. So if you're with me, UDEs, right? I've worked from worldwide level to national level, now down to the credit union level on the mission and vision that's focused on how is it that we grow our own members. How many ads do you see that are not only touting the Gen Z population and that part of our community, but the 28% of the Gen Z population that's part of the LGBTQ plus community? Those are younger members. There are members through Inclusive's help, those of us that are Juntos Avanzamos, who are saying there is a huge market opportunity to support and to benefit the Hispanic community, which in 10 years, the majority of high school graduates will be minority white. Right? What is it that we're doing to prepare ourselves? Because it's not like a light switch where all of a sudden me, who's non-Hispanic, can understand what this Hispanic community might have felt like or how they're dealing with interacting or engaging in our financial services network. It takes time for us to not only introduce DEI concepts in our organization, but actually introduce plurality where we're respecting and listening to those different perspectives in our decision-making process. And I think we only get there when we get to the center of the onion, when we get to the member. So there's been a couple of questions about how is it that we encourage more people to activate or engage. You know, Sue asked me to come here and I was excited for that opportunity. It was Thursday night, 2 nights ago, when I was in the living room with Pedro, who was trying to figure out and understand a loan. Pedro's from Guatemala, and he needs a loan for his heater because in his mobile home, there's no heat. And at that moment, like we're thinking, how is it that we make a loan for Pedro? He's bringing cash to another financial institution. Those are his deposits. How do we, he doesn't have a credit score. I am certain that the team that we have at Peninsula Credit Union will figure out how to make that loan for Pedro, not for the heater, but for the electrical system that needs to support that heater, right? And most importantly, when I walked away from that conversation with Pedro in his living room of his mobile home, to see 3 of his children waving out the window with broken shards of glass. When I knew that night it was going to be 38 degrees at home. And that's 6 miles from my house. That's not in Africa, it's not in some third world country. That's in Shelton, Washington, not far from Seattle, in a very proactive country, very progressive country. So that, if nothing else, it's that individual member for me, and I think should be for all of us, to motivate us to figure out how to get out of our own way, how to listen to one another, how to collaborate with each other, how to effectively advocate for change, both here in the United States, as well as how to advocate for change in different regions around the world. And I think that's how we'll get to 1 billion members.
Thank you very much. Give a big applause for this impassioned panel. I love hearing all of the stories. Thank you.
So we do have some time carved out for Q&A, but they got away from you, Brian, huh?
They're rogue panelists.
I know.
Always,
it's hard to control these.
We got to dial down the passion next time.
Do you have any questions for them to start us off, or can I go straight out to the crazies out in the audience?
Let's go out to the crazies.
All right. Just say yes.
I'm Buck from Tap Engine, and my background is in financial education and literacy largely. So we've touched on it a little bit, the power of reaching out to people in that way. I was wondering if you could speak to some of the specifics about where you see the greatest opportunities to do that. Let Jim, why don't you go first?
So I'll start with that member experience and some focus groups that we've held for communities from Guatemala that speak Concabalan Mam, which I didn't think was a written language, but I've since learned is a written language, just that the literacy rate doesn't allow people to read. And in those focus groups, numerous people have said, what we need is somebody in your branch. It could be once a week, it could be once a month. Give me the hours so that I can go in and understand what this debit card thing is, right? We asked partner Sound Learning in our community. You know, what is it that you need? We asked a class of English second language learners, what is it that you need? And we spent an hour this past week with a translator explaining what a debit card is. So there's a lot of financial education and literacy, sometimes that I need too, but sometimes we lose track of what the basics are. Okay.
And I would also add with that is that look at your employees. I'm going to keep harping on this, right? But look at your employees. You know, they say that the average American could not put their hands on $400 in an emergency situation. Your employees are part of that community. And I'm going to go back to something that Ronaldo said earlier. And he said, we have to be silent. And what I took from that is by being silent means that we have to listen. And we're so busy kind of like getting the next goal or the next thing or whatever. We don't listen to our employees. We don't listen to the people that are around us that can help us solve some of the problems that we're talking about on the stage today. So my recommendation would be find a way to get your leadership team, because we are talking about leadership as well, to stop doing and to listen, and find from your employees how they can help you to solve that financial education problem. Because I guarantee you, if you had a pilot program in your organization about financial education and you had your employees go through it, that's a starting step, and then something that you can also use out in the community as well. But don't forget those employees in your organization who are part of the community and are probably going through the same things.
I have a question in the back.
She let me have the mic here. One of the things I wanted to point out is when we have 400 million members, right? If you think about your families and how we have touch points, how many, not only of your employees, but how many family members are we touching? And I know from a foundation standpoint, we look at it from the standpoint that we're probably close to 1 billion. If we would turn around and say, let's start those savings accounts for our young people. Let's start teaching them. And I wanted to comment, when Brandy had James go up and speak, the first thing he said is, what is a credit union? And he researched it on YouTube and created his response. The kids are resourceful. So let's get them on board. And you're right, Lisa, technology, all the things you've said across the board here. I would just say to all of you, we're close, and we're going to show them at Money 2020, aren't we, Brian?
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah, I want to just maybe build on that. I mean, I've been working, really trying to bring fintech companies and credit unions together for the last 8 or 9 years. And I think what I've seen, a lot of the credit unions that are really thriving in today's environment are those that proactively pursued opportunities to partner with these early stage tech companies, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they're kind of miles ahead of many in the industry. So I think the industry as a whole, again, I think we need to get a lot more progressive minded around partnering with fintechs, because that technology, from a financial education standpoint, to member experience, to becoming more cost efficient, to replacing new sources of non-interest income. Really, I think technology is going to be important on all of those, combined with the mission. I mean, that's always going to be at the root of all of this, but you leverage technology with the power of the mission, and we can achieve some really great things.
Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause.